The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Hosted by me, your fine host, the Verbal Viking, right here every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Facebook Live. Catch me at verbalviking@gmail.com and always at verbalviking.com. Tonight, an amazing show. The talent that rolls out of Oklahoma is extraordinary. We've got another amazing person on the show tonight, candidate Dr. Mark Sherwood with his Oklahoma First policy. This guy is amazing. Functional Medical Institute founder, certified naturopathic doctor, 24-year retired veteran, Tulsa Police Department SWAT team, 3 Amazon #1 bestsellers, world famous power team, where he's going to tell us what that is because I don't know, and also a professional baseball player. We're going to find out about that. Featured on CNN and CBN, feature-length movies, 3 of them. Fork Your Diet in the U.S. and U.K., Prayer List release worldwide, and WWJR expected to release Easter 2022. This guy is amazing. But before we get started, hardy har har har, I've got to tell you, last week, thanks to Frank Urbanek, he's running for mayor in Oklahoma City. Frank Urbanek is going to be speaking, put it on your calendar, December 10th at the Boots and Bling event, 6 to 8 p.m. He is one of the speakers there during that time at the Redneck Yacht Club, Oklahoma City. Go to the OKGOP to get tickets, find out information, etc. But again, December 10th, Boots and Bling. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to play that commercial again until December 10th gets here and gone to make sure everybody gets a chance to know where to go, who's speaking at the Boots and Bling event, Redneck Yacht Club, OKC, December 10th. Also, I got to make a correction from last week's show. Frank Urbanek, I promoted him as a major. He's been recently promoted to lieutenant colonel. Thanks to Adam Modoset for correcting me on that. I was late on the information on that, but previously Major Frank Urbanek, now Lieutenant Colonel, running against the Goliath in OKC, Frank Urbanek, mayoral candidate, Oklahoma City. Tonight, Dr. Mark Sherwood. He is bringing us some most needed leadership in Oklahoma, and we're going to talk a little bit about his bio and then move quickly into issues. He's got a great website, Sherwood2022.com. Go check it out right now if you want to get ahead of the host in the game. But first, let's see if we can ask Mark Sherwood. Let's see if we can Dr. Sherwood, are you there?
Yes, sir, Tom, I am.
Look at that. We've contacted him according to, let's see if we can beam him in. Let's ask him to start beaming in.
And I am here. Look at that.
I do that for me because I just have a ton of fun.
That's awesome. I love it.
We beam him from the planet's surface onto this amazing thing we call 3D politics. So I appreciate you for being here. So tell me, first of all, Dr. Mark Sherwood, I appreciate you coming on. You've got a heck of a website, Sherwood, SHERWOOD 2022.com. So anybody who wants to get ahead of the game tonight, go check that out right now. But tell us real quickly, within the first 15 minutes, before we get to the issues that are well represented on your page, bio us, where do you come from? How did you get here? And then what got you interested in politics to start?
So I appreciate you having me on, Tom. I'm honored to be here, of course,
Thank you.
and thank you for that.
You
And
bet.
and as you laid out, I've been very blessed to be able to do a lot and see a lot and experience a lot in life, and I give God the credit for that. I do.
Amen.
People need to know that, and so just a well-rounded life, both good and bad and ugly, the whole bit. I was a professional baseball player in the country Australia, so I had to live all the way around the world by myself before cell phones and before computers, and I was using dollar coins to plug in that payphone in the corner once a week. So learning to
Wow.
do that was a growing up experience fast. And then I went and I joined the police department when I realized that I wasn't going to get to play in the major leagues. That wasn't part of the destiny God had for me. So I joined the police department and was on the SWAT team for 10 years, and a lot of experiences there, of course. And then
Right.
during that time, I became a bodybuilding champion, which is a little unique, I guess. Just try to take care of myself. And then I was able to travel with the power team for about 12 years. And
Now,
that
what
was
is the power team? Because
yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. Oops.
Yeah.
You know.
So when people listening tonight will probably remember the men that traveled around the world and they would break bricks with their head and ice with their head and bend steel in their
Okay,
teeth.
these are
And
the bust apple guys,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I remember they bend the bars and
yeah,
such. Okay, I remember these guys. You
yeah.
traveled with those guys.
I did, and we would use those to
Wow.
grab people's attention. And I've been able to speak on every continent except for one, doing that and other things. And we would use that just to get people's attention and preach the gospel. And it was a very powerful ministry, very powerful time, and just met a lot of neat people in that. And then after, later in my career at the police department, God laid it on my heart to go out there and take the protection and service mission and bring it a little bit more broad. And so now went back to school, became a naturopathic doctor. And that is, of course, been my life ever since. And, that's led me in many different directions, growing our sphere of influence, again, to God be the glory, to touch people's lives, to get them better and get them in their optimal health. And throughout that time, we've been fortunate enough to have 3 number 1 best-selling books, and we became movie producers. So we've completed our 3rd film, and we're
All right, you're
looking
on a
forward to
roll.
more in the
Hold on. I
future.
got questions. Okay, so real quick, let's also introduce the concept of your wife, Michelle.
Yep.
She is also a doctor of osteopathy, and I know what that is, but
Mhm.
you are a doctor of neuroch. How do you say it again?
It's naturopathy. And I got to tell you, Tom, my wife is amazing. She's my best friend, my pal, my queen, I call her. I honor her with everything. And without her by
You
my side, I would not be the man I am.
Well, right. You guys are clearly a dynamic duo with science behind you and a lot of expertise. I've got to see if I can keep you from moving too far into the neuropathy, the naturopathy
There you go.
topic. But I do want to say, what is naturopathy?
Naturopathy is really the study of the physiology and biology of human beings. We study everything that is the functionality of the human beings, how the human body is supposed to work, how it's supposed to handle life, nutrition, sleep, stress management, supplementation, all of the natural remedies you would think of to provide just incredible functionality for the body. And we do everything except prescribe medications, and that's what my wife does. So in our unique dynamic, and we have a large team of practitioners, we have really all sides of the gamut covered. So when people come to us, they get well and they have a great life, and now they come to us from all around the world, right there
And
in
this
Tulsa,
is the
Oklahoma.
Functional Medical Institute you're talking about.
Yes, correct.
So tell me quickly about that. So now we know a little bit more about naturopathy. What is the Functional Medical Institute, and how do you treat so many people?
So our mission at the Functional Medical Institute is to lead people down a pathway of true healing. And we have 2 purposes in that mission statement that are pretty clear. We want to eradicate the usage of all unnecessary medications. We want to eliminate all self-imposed choice-driven diseases.
Self-imposed Say that again for all
Yeah,
the
self-imposed choice-driven disease processes.
choice-driven disease processes. Okay. Do you want to expound on that a little bit?
I will. Most of our disease processes today are driven by a lack of self government. In other words, we eat poorly, our lifestyle is poor, we don't sleep, we fall and prey, trapped for the sinister plot called the standard American diet. And because of that, we have many disease processes that should not exist today, namely type 2 diabetes that should not exist. Most autoimmune conditions should not exist. Most heart disease, most osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, dementia, and even cancers. So a majority of these processes are driven by poor lifestyle. And it seems to me today that no one wants to address that. But nonetheless, that's what we address. And we see people get demedicated literally daily. And it's a joy to watch them get better.
So you're actually clearly dealing with it and having success. Now, what is the scale of your operation? Are you, I mean, is it a huge medical institute, or how do you treat people that come find you, and how do they find you at the Functional Medical Institute?
Well, it's a worldwide operation, believe it or not. We see people via Zoom from all around the world, and we have about a 5,000 square foot facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with 4 other nurse practitioners and a large staff, both on site and off site. And people find us just because, we've been people of our word. We have literally done the things that we said we're going to do. We provided healing in people's lives. And boy, through that, it's been just incredible to meet people from all over the world.
Well, yeah. Now, are you people, I want to borrow the phrase telemed style. I mean, can you treat people by meeting them? Are you able to see problem, or is it, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Right, yeah, we can see them everywhere. It's cool.
Okay. So let's real quickly back to the 3 Amazon #1 best-selling books. Name them so they know what to search for.
First one is called Quest for Wellness. Number 2 is called Fork Your Diet. Number 3 is called Surviving the Garden of Eden. Unique spelling there.
Eden. So your pun routine right there. I do remember the Power Team now. They went around. I probably saw you.
You probably did.
Professional baseball seems where you kind of started with your disciplinary. You love to play baseball, and you were good at it, probably. Yeah. Did you ever know where are you located now as far as you live where?
We live in Broken Arrow, and our practice is based in Tulsa, right?
But you're Oklahoma-based. Berry Hill, I know from your bio. Did you ever hear of the locally famous Mike Moguen, Moguen's Gym bodybuilder?
Of course, I know Mike and knew him very well. Yeah.
Oh, well, very good. Okay, so he's a family friend, and we love Mike Moguen.
Yeah,
and his family.
Great guy.
So just recently passed, and so God rest his soul. Well, that's good to know. Now, featured on CNN and CBN. Tell me quickly about that.
It's because of our movies and our influence. We've been able to be featured on both of those networks, as well as ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox as well. So it's been a journey. We try to get out there as best we can to communicate hope to people.
This is excellent. Okay, so 3 movies. And folks, if you're just now tuning in or been listening, we are moving in to probably 45 minutes of excellent question and dialogue on the issues facing Oklahoma with candidate Dr. Mark Sherwood with his Oklahoma First policy, joining Tommy McCay right here, your fine Verbal Viking host. At verbalviking.com. Candidate Mark Sherwood. Let's go ahead and move in. Did I leave something out? Oh yeah, the movies. Fork Your Diet in US and UK. So you're getting some heavy play there, and that's been out since when? A feature-length film.
That's been out about 1.5 years, actually.
So just pretty recent, okay? And Prayer List was released worldwide, and when did that happen?
That was released worldwide this summer, and that's a real story based upon my wife, believe it or not.
Excellent. People have no idea how great the folks from Oklahoma are. And WWJR is predicted release Easter 2022. And what's that?
Yeah, WWJR is a Christian-based comedy, and WWJR stands for When Will Jesus Return? And it is a hilarious, hilarious film. I can't wait for people around the world to experience that.
Well, very good. I always do WJWJT, which is what jokes would Jesus tell? But that's just
That's
that's just
good.
me. Okay, so we're going to move into the issues. You've got your campaign and your platform so well laid out. It was really. We've got 10 areas, 10 issues to get to pretty quickly, and we'll just move through them with ease, and I'll ask you some stuff. So, what is the Oklahoma First policy, which is your primary push here?
Well, we know that we think Oklahoma can be not just a top 10 state, but we think it can be the number one state. And that's our effort. I think Oklahoma's got some amazing, incredible, awesome people. We have a unique blend of people with the Native American tribes and all the people that have settled here over the course of time. What a unique place we have. And we need to make sure that our rights and our freedoms are safe. And that would be Oklahoma first all the way. We're going to do things that are going to help this state, help the economy, help the people, and show them what true leadership looks like.
So I know you're critical of Stitt, and nobody's perfect. It's hard. I ran for mayor in 2016. They always criticize. I don't mean to compare myself with you, but any newcomer into a race or someone who hasn't run before or has a lack of experience. Well, you don't know what you're doing. How do you know how to govern? Well, that's the beauty of America is we're looking for that unique talent that lies out there in the great masses, and so. For me, the newness of your fresh blood, okay, is what we're looking for. Drain the swamp, etc. Stitt wasn't perfect. I'm not a wonk. I'm not a policy wonk. I run an opinion show, but I've liked Stitt in some areas. Stitt overreached in the area of the COVID, where he tried to control it with a riot act. Frank Urbanek, who I talked about at the beginning of the show, the attorney from OKC pushed him back. You can't, just push people around according to a riot act when there's not one going on. I'm going to ask you later about emergencies and how to define one. But has Governor Stitt done anything good? Has he held his ground to protect Oklahoma in any way? And then we'll move on to criticizing him.
Well, I don't know him, and I'm always careful about criticizing another human being. There are significant differences in what he is doing and what I will do. And you mentioned a few issues, just a couple brief points. He says he's against vaccine mandates. We still have vaccine mandates. He says he doesn't want to see Oklahomans lose their job. We fight every day, and we can go into that. We should. We and my wife fight every day for people's jobs so that they can maintain their jobs. Governor Stitt says he's against abortion, says he's pro-life. Well, if that's true, why do we have 5 clinics in the state that murder 29 babies every day with 4 more clinics on the way? Governor Stitt says he's all about securing our borders and making sure Oklahoma's rights are met. Well, then why do we have 300,000 acres purchased by the Chinese nationals, largest per capita acreage owned of any state in the United States of America, right here under our noses? Why are we bringing in Afghan refugees that are unvetted? Why are we celebrating that? Why are we celebrating an unemployment rate of 2.3% when we're seeing people lose their jobs at Christmas time? Wrong headline, wrong time. I'm not critical of the man as a person. I'm critical of the policies which are not being lived out. It is all words and no actions. And that's my major difference. I do not mince words to speak words. I am a man of action, evidenced by my life and my experience, and I will make things happen for the benefit of all Oklahomans, and I will give them confidence to know that somebody is in the governor's mansion that's on their side. It's going to protect them, because I'm doing that right now.
And so, and again, part of the reason I'm here is to say stuff that I want to say too, so I don't want to get in the way too much. I really appreciate your efforts. Running for office is a big deal, and for governor is a huge deal. I did my little stint, and it's you really got to lay it out there. But So you did mention some important issues, and is it really right though to put it all in the like Stitt doesn't get to operate like a dictator. Some of these things you mentioned, he can't just like, well, why do we still have? Well, he can't just flick a switch. So I mean, how do you? I know you're going to address these issues but Stitt did what? So let me say it this way: Stitt tried to do what I think you're saying someone should try to do, and that is protect Oklahomans. Well, he did it through invoking the Riot Act, which is not the way to do it. So simply saying do things to protect Oklahomans, sometimes that'll mean doing something that we don't want. So what is your opinion? And I mean to kind of reflect on my rhetorical there. Opinion of the governor of Florida, DeSantis, Ron DeSantis. Has he been acting properly? Do you like that? And how do you position him against Stitt?
As I've worked my way around the state of Oklahoma and listened to people, and I have listened to a lot of people, and I still do, there is an angry frustration. And many times I pose them the question. I say, what do you think of Governor DeSantis? Listen, Tom, 100% of those people start cheering at that point because that's what they want. They want a governor that sticks out front and stands up front and stands up for the people and signs an executive order and says, not in our state, you're not going to do this. He tells them that he's going to protect them, and he sticks his own neck out there for them. He doesn't defer it to somebody else. He doesn't say, I'm going to depend on my attorney general. He says, I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, I don't know Ron DeSantis either, but I know what I've seen when people are in a war, and we're in a war against our freedoms, rights, and liberties right here in our country right now. And we're naive if we don't think it's about affecting us Oklahomans, because it is. And it's on the way. If it's not in our minds and forefront, it will be in our minds and forefront soon. And we need a leader that's out front that knows how to get out front and lead the way, just like I did on the SWAT team. Somebody had to go in the door first. It's a dangerous job, but I'm going to volunteer for that. This is not something I'm doing for my health. I'm doing it because I'm called to do this by God. And I'm going to go out there and do it to serve the people of Oklahoma with honor and integrity. And I'm not going to be swayed by special interest or lobbyists.
So we'll try to cover election integrity before the break, because I think that's one of your points in your website. And his website is Sherwood, SHERWOOD 2022.com, to find his platform, Election Integrity. Part of it, I read in your platform, is to protect Oklahoma by protecting election integrity the states run the elections to decide the national representatives. But your idea is that Oklahoma is being infringed upon by these neglectful or corrupt states, and you want to protect Oklahomans by protecting election integrity. Tell us about that.
Well, it's more about protecting the integrity of the election process so that people can understand your vote, Tom, counts. My vote for Mark counts. They all count one. Now, the interesting thing about the last presidential election, all 77 counties voted in favor of President Donald Trump. So you would think, well, okay, that means they're all red. But is that true? How red are they? That's the question mark. And I talked to, in detail, Seth Ketchel, who's an election expert. He'll actually be here speaking at one of our events on December the 16th coming up. And I'll also be at the Boots and Bling speaking with Frank Urbanek on the 10th of December. So yeah, it's going to be a great time.
I was reading all your other stuff and I missed that. So you are also there.
Yep.
So there's two events. Let's pause real quickly. I hope you can remember where we were, but plug your other event, because I'm going to plug that December 10th thing at the bottom of the hour. But where is your other deal?
The other deal is going to be the Stevens County Fairgrounds in Duncan, Oklahoma on December the 16th. At the Thursday night, we're going to have big names coming in. Dr. Richard Bartlett's coming in. Christy Hutcherson's coming in. Dan Fisher will be there. Don Spencer will be there. There will be a whole bunch of people that are speaking. Jackson Lawmeyer, candidate for U.S. Senate, will be there as well.
Nice.
It's going to be an amazing event. We expect a couple thousand people to show up to that one, and it's going to be incredible. So hope people in the area of southwestern Oklahoma will come out.
Well, I'm sorry if I slide. I didn't know. I didn't know. So there it is. But election integrity, and so 77 counties here, and that's, I think, close to where you left off.
Yeah. So I spoke with Seth Ketchel, and I asked him the question and he is well known in the area for determining has there been fraud or not. And I asked him the question point blank, is there fraud in Oklahoma? He said, absolutely. And he told me the strategy that's happening is some of the Democratic people will try to bleed into some of these larger counties, like an Oklahoma County, for example, or a Tulsa County. They'll try to bleed in there and kind of get some of the traction in these small races to sort of bring in a little bit of yeast into the dough, so to speak. And he said clearly that we have fraud going on there. And some of the same processes we have across the country that have been disputed, we need to do a canvas, and we need to follow a canvas with an audit, follow it with a canvas. Now, the question becomes then is, how are you going to do that for the whole state? This would be my plan, Tom. I would look at one of those counties, maybe two, the larger ones, and I'd want to go in there and do an intense audit on that election with an intense canvas. If we show there's fraud, and there is fraud, show the people of Oklahoma that. Let them understand that, and let them know we're doing something about it. And if we see fraud there, we will get that sort of audit expansion, like a net, and go a little bit wider. We have to get this right. If we lose the concept of election integrity, and two things can happen. We think, one, our vote doesn't count. And the other hand, we think, well, it's going to turn red anyway, so why vote? So both of those processes are a loss. I want people to vote. I want all people to vote. I want all people that are able to be registered to vote, both in the primaries, which is very important, and in the general election. This is what we stand on. This is what our republic is bent on. We have the opportunity to vote in the people, the common people we want, and we have the opportunity to vote out the swamp people we don't want.
Right. The leftists and the progressives continually misplace their ideals in the word Democrat. We have a democracy. Yes, we use democratic process, but we have a representative republic. And what you're pointing out is what they whine at, is that if we cannot trust the basic democratic showing of hands, so to speak, in the private ballot, then we got nothing. We got nothing. Okay. If it's all rigged, then literally we're arguing about, fiction. So it doesn't matter anyway. Now, I do want to pick at you one thing right before the break. It says in your website, under election integrity, quote, we must not look to fix things in 2024. We must conduct a forensic audit of the 2020 elections and immediately reinstate President Trump. Now, there's where you'll get some 3D scrutiny. I don't think there's constitutional, there's no precedent to reinstate. We know a lot of stuff's been dirty. Nixon and Kennedy was dirty. Everything. We know it's dirty, but you're not going to go back. This is where I fear you will lose some constituents. You're not going to reinstate. You're not going to fix anything. There's no reinstating Trump, is what I'm saying. There's your story.
Now I want to clarify that statement.
Let me just set it up real quickly.
Sure.
And I don't mean to kill your thunder retort, but my whistle went off. I want to let everybody know you are listening to Dr. Mark Sherwood, Oklahoma First Policy candidate for gubernatorial candidate right here in Oklahoma. And so go ahead.
Yeah, I think to clarify that, when we have elections that are fraudulent, we need to reinstate the rightful winners. And I realize that right now we don't have a way to do that. I don't know of a way, but I do know this. The very first thing we need to do is to uncover fraud if it's there. And if it's there, we need to prove it. And if there's somebody else that won an election, we need to figure out a way to make it right. Because if we don't gain ground going forward by at least looking backwards to learn what we need to learn, we've lost our way. Now, we're in a place right now where many people I've talked to across Oklahoma are exactly as you stated a moment ago. They're like, man, what does it matter anyway? Our votes probably won't count. There's cheating going on, and they have that bias. And I've got to sort of convince them, and I'm going to do everything I can, even if we have to go back to crayons and markers on a piece of paper. We've got to get that right, Tom. We've got to get it right. And if I have to go out there and help people count, I will.
All right. So it's very nearly like a grammatical error. I don't think you're making a grave. No. Again, this is just me pushing back instead of just saying all the time. We have to fix things going forward. I do not believe that, and I do think a forensic audit of 2020 is due. Okay, I even heard of a construction guy that helped me on North Denver that said he worked at 71st Memorial, and they found ballots in the dumpster. I mean, there was fraud. We know it. We've got to fix that, and that I agree with. Forensic audit of the 2020 elections. We're not going to reinstate Trump. That is not going to happen. Okay, and that's just where I feel like I see your passion there. But what you're saying is we're going to have to fix that. All right, man, we're rolling. What we're going to do is play the game here. We're going to mute you, send you away also, and we're going to come back after I roll this commercial about an event that's coming up at the Redneck Yacht Club in Oklahoma City that our guest, Mark Sherwood, is also going to be speaking at. Let's see if I can make this work. It always is dangerous, even for the big wigs. We get all the way here. We kill that. We make sure that is up. We kill that. We start that.
We grassroots have a great opportunity to take this party back and be who we truly say we are. Let's unite as grassroots conservatives and let's get this done. If we fight, win.
We were not in violation of the governor's order.
That was from our story last night at 10. The executive order issued last month says businesses cannot serve food or alcohol past 11 p.m.
We have a newly revamped website and a very active email and social media campaign. We have implemented a phone bank program to call all of the county chairs to see what their needs are and how we can help them. Since elected, I have visited and spoken at 41 different county or Republican organizations, including all the way out in the Panhandle. Our SOP committee will be rolling out an operating guide for county chairs and precinct chairs very soon. We assembled an outreach committee to grow and diversify our base with younger voters of all walks of life. In response to overwhelming demand for action, we started an election integrity committee, which is chaired by Representative Sean Roberts. We started an education committee, chaired by Linda Murphy, to address the many education issues that we're facing today. We have a digital committee working on a unified digital structure and communications with not only party officials, but also the general public. We have a fully staffed headquarters, including a volunteer coordinator, and the GOP headquarters has become a buzz for legislators. We've had forums, and we get frequent visitors from the public. We partner with grassroots groups from all over the state, and we are coordinating our efforts to fight for liberty and we, the people. And our merchandise store is officially up and filled with patriotic gear, which serves to brand our party and raise money at the same time. We're having a real grassroots fundraiser coming up, so I need you to go to buy some tickets so you can come out and fellowship with other patriots in Oklahoma City on December the 10th. Go to our website, go to our Facebook page, and find this link. And patriots, if you truly want to get our republic back, it's going to take some sacrifice. And we must be willing to stand and fight for it. Because if we don't stand and fight for our freedoms today, we won't have any freedoms to fight for tomorrow. We've got to fight for our republic harder than the third monkey trying to get on the ark, and it's starting to rain, baby. So God bless you, and God bless the great state of Oklahoma.
the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. And here we are again with your fine host, Tommy McCay, the Verbal Viking, joining me, and we're going to see if we can bring him in right now. Let's see if we can hear him by radio contact. Are you there?
I am, Tom. It's
Doctor,
good to hear you once again.
There he is on the planet service. Let's see if we can bring him in and beam him in according to all that is worthy. There he is with amazing Zoom technology on 3D Politics. Dr. Mark Wood, we are venturing further to the issues well presented on his website, Sherwood2022.com. We're finishing up election integrity. We've agreed that we do need a forensic audit of the 2020 elections. It says further in here, you will work for the Oklahoma legislature to preemptively nullify all executive orders and federal legislation passed under the Biden regime affecting Oklahoma. Explain that.
When I look at the state and I think about the 10th Amendment, Tom, that is something that has been trashed, ran over, denigrated, and taken advantage of. It is clear to me that if the states don't obviously give away the power, they retain the power. The federal government works for us. We do not work for them.
It seems so simple when you say it like that.
Yeah, it's a simple process.
Very simple, yeah.
We just have to get that concept back. And it seems simple, but yet, as you know, and I do talk to people, it's such a federal strings system we live in. You know, even with the vaccine mandates, you look at the hospital systems. I've talked to a lot of those hospital workers and the first line workers, you know, the healthcare workers, and their language they're given is always something like, well, as you know, most of our money is made and taken in from Medicare, Medicaid. So because of that, and then fill in the blank. So it's like we're so stuck to them right now that they're using money to control and using money to sort of bully their way to what they want. I agree with John Bennett in that commercial. If we don't push back right now with a vengeance, are we naive enough to think that they're just going to come in one day and say, hey, you know, we love you guys, we're going to pull the strings away? I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. I think that's right. Okay, more to get to, but let's move on to number 3 of 10. No mandatory masks, vaccine passports, or lockdowns. Go, because I got a couple of questions.
Yeah, those have got to stop. You know, my wife and I have been dealing with that as healthcare workers for the last 2 years. It is ridiculous to have this idea that you have to wear a mask, you have to have a vaccine to get cared for for medical purposes, to get into places to eat, to get into places to buy, to get into schools. There is no need for that. I'm all about free choice. We're not anti-mask. We're not anti-vaccines. We just want the Tom McCays of the world to do what you want to do and assess your own risk.
Leave me alone. Yeah. You mentioned communists, Marxists, and fascists. I pointed out that when I ran against our current mayor here in Tulsa, G.T. Bynum, that he was the nicest fascist I ever met.
Yeah.
Publicly funded, government-controlled institutions and infrastructures. That is my definition of fascist.
Yep.
And so you say here, this is from your no mandatory masks from your platform, quote, the ideology of essential or non-essential business is fascism, and a way not only for government to control the private sector, but also to turn the private business sector into a weapon into the hands of government, against legal and law-abiding citizens, which is so true because the hostess at the restaurant now enforces government regulations, and that is literally fascism. fascism,
Yeah.
where it's a private business, privately owned, privately funded, but the government somehow controls it. And so, yeah, we are up against fascism. When you say the word communist and Marxist, of course, all the walls come down and they block you off. The minute you try to promote Christianity by saying Jesus, they're like, I'll never listen, And so, but the truth is the truth, and that definitely is fascism. Another point here that you make about the vaccine, which isn't a vaccine, quote from your number 3, mandatory mask or no mandatory mask. It's important. This is critical. It's important because you even fell into the trap of the secular world, even though you're already the one teaching us this. It's important. You just called it a vaccine, and it's not. You just tell us it's important for the citizens of Oklahoma to know this product does not meet the criteria of being considered a vaccine. It literally on paper is referred to as a viral-based genetic therapy. But we are trained to call it a flu vaccine and a vaccine, and it's like a Kleenex and a Coke. These are product names. They're not generic terms. So tell us how it's not a vaccine. Why is it not a vaccine?
Well, vaccines aren't inherently bad. The concept of them before the vaccine liability was transferred to the government under the Reagan administration, as I recall, back in the 80s, vaccines, we were given like 5 to children that were under 2. And after that time, 1 year we went to 23, and that number is growing exponentially. It's all about the dollars now, but this concept is different than a typical vaccine. Typical vaccines have an inert piece of the virus, usually not enough to cause any harm whatsoever, and they introduce that into the body so that the body itself will see that as a foreign intruder, and then the body's unique, God-given, adaptive immune system will go, hey, that's a foreigner. Let me create my own special forces SWAT team to go after that through the form of antibodies. And that's typical vaccine 101. And these antibodies have a memory. So anytime they see something like that, they will adjust. This one doesn't do that. These are inserted there's a genetic insertions into your RNA so that your RNA is interrupted by a man-made program to create these proteins into your body. So it's not an introduction from the outside, it's a creation from the inside. And it's totally different. It doesn't fit that criteria. This is genetic altering technology that, unfortunately, Tom, is not just on the horizon. This is being studied on and on and on as the future of these quote unquote vaccines.
Well, we are the guinea pigs in this one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm your control group right here. So what I understand from natural immunity, when you have natural immunity against a virus, you have what they call full surface immunity. If you have a vaccine or a shot that creates partial immunity, that's my term. It only works against that one spiked protein. It's not full surface. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. So this whole idea of the spike being the initial thing and the only thing is not true, because the virus has other parts, as you said, mainly 3 parts. And so when we're dealing with one, we're going to see mutation, variation after mutation, variation. It's going to continue to do this. This is not unheard of. Every time I see another strain come out, I'm like, well, here we go again. This is not complicated stuff. It's the nature of viruses as part of the symbiotic relationship of us. There's always going to be viruses. Hello? There's always going to be parasites. There's always going to be bacteria. We're not going to get away from it. We live with them.
March 2020, it didn't take Nostradamus, just a verbal Viking, to say, you think this is the last virus they're ever going to come up with?
It's silly at this point. It's almost comical.
Well, I wish. Yeah, so another thing you talk about is informed consent, which is really the bigger issue here. When I argue, I do Tommy's Twitter tirade where I Facebook spat and Twitter tirade with people. And I think it's important to fill the Twitter space with the right voices instead of advocating and running somewhere else. Argue with these idiots on Twitter. Argue with people on Facebook. Tell them what. Because they say, so one guy who was, I don't know, whatever it was, somebody was saying, what religious, because somebody says, I don't want to take the vax because of a religious exemption. And their comment was, what religious exemption keeps you from taking, a vaccine? And my comment was, what religious exemption keeps you from doing what I tell you to do? How about if I tell you to do stuff? Oh, no, not you, Tom. No. What I'm saying is how about if I tell everybody what to do? Because what we're having here is not only a lack of informed consent, it's forced participation. Yeah. It used to be just leave somebody alone in the park so they don't get beat up. But now we're being forced to acknowledge something as being equal that it's not. I mean, it's forced participation. Everybody knows somebody that they love who's been forced to be shot with this crap that we don't even know what's in it. And I asked the nurse, what is in that? She doesn't know. No. Well, who put what in it? Do they know? No. And you can just go right up the chain. Nobody knows what's in it. And it's just like getting drugs from a drug dealer off the street. Yep. They can put a hot shot pocket in there anytime you want. Everybody's seen them. They can gig you. Oh, they can't track you by as a cell phone. If they want you, they can track you by serial number according to your phone serial number to the shot you get serial number on the vial and give you whatever they want you to get. But they won't acknowledge that I want my placebo at the Catholic Church called the Eucharist because I believe. But they believe in their shot. All right, that's enough of me. You're against the policy mask and vaccine mandates, vaccine passports and lockdowns. What do you think about the whatever it's called, the new one, the Omicron or what the hell? They're coming again. This is what the constituents that you're looking to get votes from don't understand. This fight just started. It just started.
Look, it's not going to end. If you look at the Omicron and you spell it a different way, it says moronic. And that's kind of where we are right now. You know, it's so silly right now in the concept that we as Oklahomans are smart people. Let's get our heads out of the sand and our out of the air and realize that this is not going to stop. It began as a big game of chicken, big game of adult chicken. And we blinked. We continue to blink and we continue to blink, push back. Yes. There is nobody that's going to force us to take these vaccines unless we allow that. That's going to happen. Now, people get pressured. They make decisions all the time. But, Tom, we fight for this every day. We fight for this every day, my wife and I. We write exemption letters for people. I know this to be true. Most people are so panicked, they'll do anything to keep their job. This is Christmas time. Why are we here in this place? This frustrates the way out of me.
Yes, that's right.
We have got to stand up for our rights at all costs because these boosters are going to go on and on and on and on until they get what they want. If we push back in numbers, I'm telling you, as God's my witness, we will win. We just got to get that belief back and band together and stand firm and hold the line.
Your platform is so thorough. I am just absolutely certain we'll go long if you can stick around.
Sure thing. No worries.
Okay. We are listening to candidate Dr. Mark Sherwood with his Oklahoma First policy. His website, Sherwood2022.com. So we talked about if I was current governor, you say, I would have already called an emergency session asking the legislatures to put a bill on my desk that would protect the rights of Oklahomans. Now, our governor already did a thing. He invoked the Riot Act to deal with an emergency thing. What kind of how will you define emergency? I alluded to this earlier. We're going to have an emergency. How do you define emergency? It's not a riot.
No.
Okay, so what kind of emergency is it?
I think you can define emergencies in a variety of ways, can't you, Tom? I mean, like, for example, I think it's an emergency.
Constitutionally, I'm sorry to interrupt. Constitutionally, because the other argument with Frank Urbanek was that if it's a public health emergency, you can call that type of one in the Constitution. But then the governor is required to have all these updates with, there's a weekly, he has to have a task force and all this other stuff. So go ahead.
No, I look at it like, for example, I think it's an emergency when 29 lives are being exterminated by choice every day in this state. 29 lives. To me, that's a health emergency. If there were thousands of people dying every day of a viral strain, that would be an emergency. I did not see an emergency in this case, Tom. Not with these viruses. It never lined up. The emergency was fabricated by manipulation and propaganda, only given one side of the coin. My wife and I, get this, over the last year and a half, this should have been a top story in the news in Oklahoma, but you know how many carried it? Zero. We've treated over 9,000 people. You know how many people we've lost with COVID? Zero. Nobody's heard of that. You know why? Because no news station want to cover it. All they want is negative, drama-filled, fear-based. And that is driving the bus. And I encourage people to open your eyes, see the full picture, hear things differently, feel things differently, and have a heart that's willing to receive things differently.
Yeah, trust your lying eyes. 99.9% survival rate, and all they want to do is freak everybody out and fear monger. So you're saying you would have called an emergency session. What would you have asked them to do when you say you want to put a bill on the desk to protect the rights? What kind of bill do you want?
We want a bill to say no mandates, period, in this state. Nobody's going to take away your right to operate a business, the free market, as you referred to. Nobody's going to look at the yacht club in Oklahoma City and say, you guys are not essential. Nobody's going to look at Tommy McCay and say, you're not essential. Nobody's going to look at the marijuana shops and say you are essential. It was a ridiculous division thing. It makes no sense. And it never made sense. These decisions were made to be politically correct and fit in like everybody else. All it would have took is one governor to say, no, we're not going to do that, period, end of story. And when you do, you're going to build common sense and build courage for other governors to do the same thing.
Oh, well, I can't hate that. Okay, number 4, stop federal assault on oil and gas. One of the things I have always hated in my Facebook spats and Twitter tirades is people like, we keep favoring oil and gas in Oklahoma. Having a running back that's really good on your team, but not giving him the ball because we don't want to favor him. We live in Oklahoma. Our strength is oil and gas. Let's block for it.
You bet. I talk to oil and gas workers and companies all the time. And you know what they say? Tell them to get their grubby hands off of our life and let's get back to business as usual, because that's what Oklahoma is. It's an oil and gas state, for God's sake. This is how we've made a living here. This is how we made a name for ourselves across the country. That's why we have the Golden Driller standing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for God's sake. I mean, why are we putting so many restrictions on this, cutting down our ability to supply and opening up foreign oil? I mean, it is so backwards right now that I can't even fathom it. So I propose that we bring it back to Oklahoma. Let's create our own economy here. Let's get some jobs back here. Let's bring oil and gas back and begin to flourish again like we're destined to do.
And it's not like we don't have recent numbers. Trump showed us we can be energy independent if we choose away from that disease. How's that one?
I love it.
It says here, Worse yet, you say, Governor Kevin Stitt's typical all talk and no action approach has done nothing to push back, protect Oklahomans. Explain.
Yeah, so I used that illustration earlier, giving not so good speeches, in my opinion, to sort of say that I'm against mandates, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-oil, but there's nothing that ever matches up with actions that what is said. It's like so minimal that we don't want to rock the boat on some of these issues. Look, as a governor and as a leader anywhere, you can't please everybody. And when you stand in the gap in an interpositional leadership place where you're trying to step up and protect people, which I will do, and I am, that's what I do anyway. Sometimes the people that you're protecting don't even know or appreciate you're protecting them. And I'm okay with that. I want people to know that even if you don't agree, I love you very much. And even if you don't know what I'm doing, I'm still out for your best interest because I want to see you, your children, and your grandchildren have a life that can be built on fruition and production and growth. And right now, it's being just sliced away, possibility after possibility after possibility, Tom. And we are on the brink of really losing the concept of the United States of America. We're right there right now.
It says right here, number 4 out of 10 on stop federal assault on oil and gas. Friends, you say, this is Oklahoma. We are an oil and gas state. Literally, we are. A lot of the kids today think that they plug in stuff at the wall and it comes from some clean, magical source. They have no idea that I don't know the percentage, but a high percentage, it's coal. Most everything is coal. It's not the idea that you're going to plug it in and get something. So it says here, full power granted. So you will use the full power granted to you by the 10th Amendment to nullify federal executive orders and the Supreme Court decision even. So what about judges that block governors? Aren't you really just setting us up for a court battle forever?
Probably. But look, here's the thing,
right?
And this is true. But like if somebody, I look at like a biblical story, like when Abraham was told to go, he wasn't given all the directions on where he was going, but he had to be obedient to the call of God. In other words, he had to step in a righteous, correct direction. And many times politicians, as we've seen, they do nothing because they're afraid of what lies ahead. They're afraid of that unknown. And leaders are not like that. I learned the valuable place of leadership when I was on the SWAT team. We would have plans, we'd have a backup plan, and then sure enough, things would go to hell in a handbag, and we'd have to just improvise. And many times we don't know what the next step is. We all know this, though, Tom, that the federal government holds too much power over the state of Oklahoma right now. And we're going to push back. We're going to stop that. And this is what I believe is going to happen. When we do, we're going to see God's blessing and protection come back to the state because it's the right thing to do. And we might not have all the answers right now, but let's have a little faith and let's dream again that we can achieve something that is truly remarkable and be the model state for the whole United States of America.
Yeah, I will say, I think you have brought me to a place where I appreciate that Stitt has underutilized his bully pulpit. I mean, DeSantis is really upstaging him. I mean, can you not put on a better show? Would be my ask from a comedian standpoint.
Well, look, man.
I mean, yeah.
When we're in a battle right now, and as I stated, you can't lead from under a bed or in a closet. You can't lead by going down to Mexico and trying to establish business to bring a Coca-Cola plant back to Oklahoma. It's the wrong time to do that, man. We've got to protect the people right now. And I think the people, as much as the ones that I've listened to and talked to, they're applauding the effort. Now, it's not just about me. They're looking for a leader, a true leader that's willing to take a gamble for them, that's willing to step out front and take a bullet for them. They don't need to see a silent leader. They need to someone step out front and say, you know what, folks, I don't have all the answers, but I do have your back. And I'm going to protect you with everything I've got because I'm one of you. I'm one of you.
I'm loving it. You know, culture, what I learned was that politics is downstream of culture. And so in December, I'm going to start bringing more culture in the form of arts and music.
Yeah.
Name it onto the show, because what you're really talking about in the culture war is about style, and style is all about what you just said, being willing to step out confidently in a way you know that you like, and maybe they'll like it. It's not about pandering to a group. It's about, this is what's right. Let me show you. This is what's style is culture. Culture leads politics. Dr. Mark Sherwood here leading us with culture. Abolish abortion. Number 5. You believe that abortion is unequivocally the greatest evil in our country. You want to declare a state of emergency. Back to, what kind of a state of emergency can you declare where abortion concerned? Is it medical emergency, public health, riot act? That's not going to work.
No, it would be a medical public health issue, because we're seeing, you know, the Ninth Amendment, if you will, that we look at has the right to have the freedoms to do what you want, the right to life, the right to pursue these things. That's the Ninth Amendment. Clearly, I was looking at some of Justice Clarence Thomas's writings, and you know, he agrees with what I'm getting ready to say to you, that the interpretation of the Roe v. Wade was a wrongful, erroneous interpretation of the Constitution, which went completely against God's law. And I agree with that, because life doesn't begin at conception. Life begins in God, because God knew Tom McCay, he knew Mark Sherwood before we were ever conceived. He had to know that, because how do we have the life of Jesus if we didn't have the life of Jesus before he was conceived in Mary? So that whole argument of this is a fetus and not a person, not a life, is just, it's faulty. And abortion on demand breaks that law that is God's law. And I realize, Tom, there are people out there that say, well, what about rape and incest? I don't tell this much, but I think it's important. I'm an adopted guy, and I am passionate about this, because had it not been for the grace and the mercy of a few people, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. Because my mother, you know, God rest her soul at this point, she was 16 years old, went to a party, got drunk, doesn't remember anything. She passes out. She hadn't had alcohol. She didn't know what she was doing. And a 19-year-old person that was on leave from Vietnam, keep in mind 19 at the time, impregnated her. And I was conceived. Well, in those days, the discussion was had, do we abort this baby? Do we try to pull our resources together and raise this human life? Or do we give this human life up for adoption? They chose number 3. And I stand before you today as a product of that, what some people would say is a rape. Now, you know what? Somebody gave me a chance. There's no life that's an accident. No life that's an accident. And I've heard people say, well, what about all the lives when we start having overpopulation? Great. God provides for everybody that he creates. Where God guides, there he provides. And I stand by his law. I will honor his law. When any sort of federal government, state government, judge interpretation violates God's law, we have to push back. We have to push back. It's God's law. It's constitutional law. And then does it make sense? And does it make sense right now? That has to be this 3-prong test in decisions.
And so, you know, with the Texas law, with the heartbeat law, and I've argued that on the Facebook spat routine and Tommy's Twitter tirade, and they're all upset. People are coming to Oklahoma to get abortions. I'm like, well, you should be so happy for the capitalists, for the capitalization of, but even in the Republican Party, and I haven't laid my hands on it right off the bat, but I believe even in the platform, which hasn't been rewritten since 2016 of the Republican Party, they allow for abortion up to 22 weeks in the Republican Party. Now, I've heard the term abolitionist. Does that fit you?
I do want to see abortion abolished. I don't think abortion on demand like that is God's law. I think that's a violation of God's law. And frankly, it's murder. And I can prove it to you from being a former law enforcement officer, because if a lady out here gets pregnant and she is 2 weeks pregnant, 3 weeks pregnant, got a positive pregnancy test, her and her husband are celebrating that, and she's murdered, and that baby is going to die as well. That's double homicide. Okay, if that's double homicide,
you're saying
then
on the books, that's what that is.
On the books. So, and they're going to charge him because it's such a crime of heinous nature,
Yes.
And we're like, it's so fickle the way we argue this. Even the pro-choice people are abolitionists. You know why? Because they have the opportunity to argue. That's called life, folks. Life is a privilege. It's a gift from God. Even everybody that's alive right now is pro-abolition. They really are, if you get right down to the core, because they don't want to see their life ended. Why are they any different than somebody else? Who gives us the right?
Fortunately for me on the show, you're a person with a nature of consistency. These people flip-flop and they don't connect the next 15 minutes to the last.
It's garbage.
And so one of the things I will ask you, just for my own edification, when I've argued this area, when they say they're looking, there's an old comedic, a fake commercial where they're talking about a rake that'll do a lot of things, and they're saying it'll pick up leaves and wet leaves, rocks and wet rocks, and they're just like doubling up on kind of the same thing. And so the abortion people, they're saying like, well, we have to have exceptions like rape and incest, and I'm like, hold it. What is the difference? Are you suggesting that there's some difference between rape and incest? Because otherwise, really, if it's not rape, you're talking about consensual incest? So, they're alluded on the other side, regardless. So
it's a goofy argument. It doesn't make any sense. It's arguing against self, and that means it's not true.
Well, it's at least contradictory. So tell me about this from a doctor's standpoint, or you have more medical information than I do. What is the probabilities? They love to say that the entire universe was created by chance. It has so much power, even though it's just a number of probabilities. But what are the chances of life of the mother? Because I can understand in the 30s, there was a thing was like breach. We don't know. We can't see. Now, with today's technology, what are the real odds of life of the mother being in danger during pregnancy? I could be wrong.
Yeah. We have this incredible increase of life expectancy of all of our country because of the improvements in that area of childbirthing. And so, the life expectancy is amazing right now for ladies. We have people that are birthing at home through doulas. We have people that are going to the ERs consistently. Man, we've developed so much, Tom. That's a blessing. Those are gifts, right? So let's celebrate our gifts by giving everybody the opportunity to live. And we cannot leave out God's miracle. There are things that happen in life that blow doctors' minds. There are things that happen that are true miracles.
All the time.
We have to leave room for that, and don't try to be so scientific that we rule out the sovereignty and the awesomeness of God.
They call them apple boppers, is the thing about the intellectuals. They get it all so figured out that if God can't fit in this jar, we can't do it. Okay, well, look, we could do abortion all day long, but just real quickly, because I'm interested, from your medical understanding, how often is it required to save the life of the mother to abort the child?
I don't work in that area, so I don't have any statistics, but look, today, I think the chances, it's just obvious to say today, the chances would be far, far, far less that a mom would lose her life as it did maybe back in the 30s. So let's just assume that that's the direction and trajectory, which I think is a safe assumption in this case. Right? So
one more thing, because I want to move on to the Second Amendment, but I will say this. As I've debated this, especially the feminists, they'll say, well, if you abolish abortion, the ladies are just going to go out there and get it anyway with a coat hanger. And I say, okay, without arguing that, what I'm saying is, if that is true, then the argument that what do they call it? Therapeutic abortions are needed. They're using them as just therapeutic. They're not really using them. So I mean, what I'm trying to say, it's hard. I haven't put this one out yet. The idea that if they're really gonna, if we abolish abortion and women are gonna do it anyway, then the fact is also true that they're not getting abortions because they really need it.
That's it. And it's like saying that we're going to take guns away to prevent murder. The inherent evil in people is within all of us. Tom, you're capable of anything, both good and bad, as am I. And I keep that in mind every day. Cain didn't need a gun to kill Abel. He committed the first murder just because he got pissed off, right? Got jealous. People need to understand that we're going to make these decisions every day, and you can't prevent people from making good decisions. You can't stop them from making bad decisions. We just have to understand there is God's law that shaped the very fabric of our Constitution. It wasn't the Constitution shaping God and dictating what he did. God's law shaped the fabric of the Constitution, which gave birth to these union of states that we call the United States of America.
Very good. We are listening to Dr. Mark Sherwood running for Oklahoma governor. Number 6 out of 10. We're just going to hammer this down. We're here.
Yeah, we're here. Let's do it.
We're going to stop Second Amendment infringement. Finally, you mentioned the word progressives here, which I define progressives as liars by definition, because you shake hands with a progressive and you say, finally, we've made an agreement. And what do they say? Just the first step. So they are liars by definition. But tell us about the Second Amendment infringement and how we're going to stop the progressives from infringing.
Well, when I look at the concept of Second Amendment, I think it's a due right for every single citizen of the United States to possess and bear arms, because clearly a well-armed citizenry is the greatest deterrent to crime, and we know that. So we need to get that right. Why can't we make Oklahoma like a gun sanctuary state? I would like to see people own guns here at their leisure, that not just the ones that hunt, but the ones that want to protect their life, their homes, their families. This is a basic right. I think most people in Oklahoma would agree with that. And we've done a decent job of that. Can we do better? Yes. Do we need to have less restrictions? Sure. And at the same time, we're going to move forward with that. That's when I use the word progressive. I look at I want to reshape the whole idea and show people that I'm going to progressively show you that people can be honest again. Right. There can be a form of honesty. There can be your yes is yes, your no is no. And, I plan on having these promises, these campaign promises on a whiteboard, actually in the office of, in the Capitol, so that people can see them and they can hold me accountable to these, because these have to be goals of we. If we don't keep our promises, we've lost it all. Too many politicians become politicians after become elected politicians. And we've got to eliminate that immediately and bring back honesty and integrity all the way.
Many voters, they're not wonky. They don't get into this stuff. They don't want to argue about stuff. They just drive back and forth to work, eat chips and watch television. And every 4 years they tune in. But you talk about that. Progressives are becoming more aggressive in their attempts to strip our rights away.
Yeah.
A lot of the voters don't really realize that. They are talking about the right. We're questioning the right to defend ourselves against being murdered with this Kyle Rittenhouse case.
Yeah.
Tell us about your thoughts.
Well, obviously, you look at that case. Now, I've seen people argue that, and I have a unique perspective being in law enforcement all those years. So I can argue from a little more experiential place other than somebody just simply Monday morning quarterbacks, because I have had guns pointed at me. I have seen people die, and I have seen people killed right in front of me. The bottom line is That case is a young man who's on his back getting the you know what kicked out of him, and he's got guns pointed at him. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
There is no other option. That was a no-brainer deal. Now people say, well, he shouldn't have had a gun. He shouldn't have been there. Irrelevant. He was. This is about the protection of a human life. Now look at this from just a basic standpoint, Tom. We are so disconnected because what we have is, and I appreciate 3D politics and what you're doing, because you're bringing about a platform where multiple sides, I like the term 3D, multiple sides of an equation can be discussed, so people can have an informed consent, a consent about what they believe. And with our mainstream media, most people are kept in the dark purposely, while behind the scenes, the progressive are just chopping away. And then one day we wake up, oh, that's gone? You mean I can't do that anymore? What happened? No more. We need to stop that nonsense right now and begin to live awake for a change.
So finishing up with number 6 out of 10, Second Amendment. You want to establish Oklahoma as a Second Amendment sanctuary state. I don't need to go on, but do you want to tell us about that? And then we'll move to tax reform.
Absolutely. I want people to have the freedom here like no other state, to own guns, to enjoy guns, and enjoy the sport of guns and the ability of guns to protect them. That needs to happen in Oklahoma. That's what Oklahomans want.
Excellent. I can't hate that either. Number 7, tax reform. I believe it's the duty of the governor now. I highlighted the word never as a contrarian. That's a strong word. In the same way with the abortion thing, I'm afraid to say never abortion because I understand, like our founding fathers, that we don't know everything in the future.
Right.
So we can't calculate. So we know that taxation is legitimate in some forms. Never sign another piece of legislation. I think the higher point you're trying to make about tax reform is what?
Yeah, obviously, we don't need to have a pattern of saying we're not going to raise taxes and raise taxes. We need to have a platform of consistency once again that says, no, I'm not going to do that.
It sounds so simple when you say it like that.
Yeah, it's like I was looking at some recent information, about someone had given me some information about the budget. And I'm thinking, why do we have so much money that's continued to go into education while our education system is so poor? What are we doing with all this? When we raise taxes, listen, this is important for people to understand. Anytime you raise taxes, you need to raise accountability. Where's the money going? Right. And if all those questions aren't answers, you're raising taxes for the wrong reasons. And it's probably going in somebody's pocket in this big brother system that we have. I'm all about spending accountability. I've been like that all my life, even in the concept of functional medicine. I want to know what's happening with the whole system so we can make the system be efficient once again.
Anybody and their expert cares about the little ticks and ties and the jots and tittles. Now, I'm going to read this whole paragraph from number 7, tax reform, in your platform, because I got yes written all over it. Quote, in a state that boasts a Republican governor, lieutenant governor, and Republican-controlled House and Senate, we have failed to live by the constitutional principles we so loudly proclaim, and instead continue to raise taxes rather than proactively audit and streamline the agencies and bureaucracies into which our money is being funneled. And I'll just say, G.T. Bynum. Here's a guy that pretends this is my guy I ran against, is mayor in Tulsa. He pretends to be a Republican. They say, oh, Republican mayor in Tulsa. No, we don't even we have a nonpartisan race. I couldn't even call myself a Republican. And Bynum did exactly what you're saying here. He claims to be Republican. He claims to be red. But he goes right along with not only saying he'll go along with Dr. Dart and the CDC and nationalizing our health emergency here in Tulsa, but he's just going to raise taxes, even though he claims to be. This is like Joy Hoffmeister, who
Exactly. There you go.
Born, she unfortunately she's a governor born in a superintendent's body. So anyway, enough of me. Tax reform, yeah, no kidding. Why do you? It's so simple. Why pretend? Yeah. Why do you pretend to be Republican if you're not going to act Republican?
Well, look, the time that I've spent traveling around the state, getting to know people, there's a clear issue in Oklahoma. It's not a Democratic problem. It's a Republican problem. It's a Republican establishment problem. It's a rhino. It's Republican in name only establishment problem. And these people don't want somebody like me in there because I'm going to ask that powerful question, form of 3 letters. Why? Why? And that's a question that people that don't want disruption hate. They hate it. We need to disrupt the establishment today like never before. I go back and reference the disruption that was created by Donald J. Trump in 2016. That guy came in and he asked some odd questions that they weren't used to. But what did it do for our economy? What did it do for our belief system again? It started a movement of hope once again across this country that will never, ever be quenched. It gave people the idea that we don't have to be subjective anymore to a crooked, corrupt government. Not anymore. And because of that, that's inspiring. And I think now people want more and more and more of that. And they want more candidates that believe in that way. Not that I'm any better than anybody else. That's not the point. But we want people in office that are willing to hold the system accountable too, and not let our state get cheated, because that's what's happening. People are getting cheated out there, Tom.
Very good. Yeah, I heard some person on some show somewhere say that Donald Trump was delivered and distributed, and they thought that was a bad thing, and I thought, man, that actually is right, because even the socialists who live and breathe by force group association, when Donald Trump came along, was able to change the numbers radically. Best numbers ever for unemployment, blacks, women, youth, everything. All of the social groups benefited. Then the socialists and the progressives betrayed their own lie by suggesting more about control, because all they said was orange man bad. They could never look at the real numbers and identify that the fact was that the actually he benefited by wrecking the system. No unvetted refugees. Number 8, Oklahoma has more land owned by China within our borders than any other state. Marijuana facilities owned and operated by Chinese infiltrators across the state are serving as covers for humans and weapons trafficking evidence. Dr. Mark Sherwood, what do you got?
Talk to some sheriffs out there that are dealing with that every day. They see it happen every day. I've talked to landowners in Western Oklahoma. They see it every day. Nobody does anything about it. And it's right under our noses today. Not only do we have, as you stated, that happening, but we have the southern border that's open, coming right up I-35, right through Dallas, right into Oklahoma. We are celebrating. Let's bring the Afghan refugees in here and have them mostly funded by a probable terrorist group. Now that's really smart, isn't it? We're going to bring over and we're going to have Afghan refugees here and be proud of that. While citizens of Oklahoma right now are losing their jobs at Christmas time. We have lost our mind for the sake of political correctness. We need to take care of our people first. Take care of the good, hardworking people that have been permanently wounded by this decision to make you non-essential, me essential. Me non-essential, you essential. People are still struggling with that. And now we have the vaccine mandates. Enough's enough. We need to get our bearings straight once again. Whoever's in charge, and get your priorities right. If you're representing Oklahomans, if that's what your job is, represent them, stand for them, and protect them for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I've often said, people are like, well, yeah, I'm going up to do the right thing. I'm like, I don't want you to do the right thing. You have to think. Represent me.
Yeah.
I told you what I said. Go say it. You don't have to go up there and make any decisions. You don't have to sit there and consternate. Oh my
No.
God, what's the right thing to do? How will this? No. Go represent. Go go stay within the constitutional bounds.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I point this out on the show all the time, people say, oh, I'm a conservative. I'm like, really? What do you conserve? If you're a wildlife conservation, I know you're conserving wildlife.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah,
say
yeah.
you're a conservative, what are you conserving? I'm like, well, clean water. No. So I tell them, I know what I'm conserving: the Declaration of Independence,
You bet.
the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. So I want to save that crap right there. Right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. When I'm traveling around, people are literally, they present their case to me. They present what they want. My job in that office is to represent that so that we're all on the same page and we're all going the same direction for the right reasons. So I'm in complete agreement and echo what you said.
Yeah, because we've got to. So that's no unvetted refugees. And this is really, Oklahoma First is a microcosm of America First. It's it's a subset. And this is the idea that nobody hates refugees.
No.
Unvetted is a whole nother issue, bringing them in without knowing, etc. Okay, I will say about the farmland. 2013, I was in Arkansas, friends of mine, farmers market, etc. Almost everybody was Vietnamese that was showing vegetables. And I'm not saying that's the vegetables they showed were clean and beautiful, but I mean, who owns the land around here? Number 9, no critical race theory. This is big. One of the biggest movements since what you would call the Tea Party is the education issue. There's an epidemic of student rape by teachers going on. Those are my words. We've got Deborah Gist with her face right. The word sexual is right next to her face. And she's begging the transgenders that love is love. That's a nonsensical crap. Promoting it to elementary school children. This is like the nicotine companies promoting cigarettes to children, and the LGBT community's on me saying this doesn't have anything to do with sex. Why is it that the word sexual is right next to the Tulsa Public School superintendent's face? Why is that if it's not sexual? Okay,
this
so
is
no
completely unacceptable. I agree.
The education system is to hell. Tell us how you're going to fix it as government.
Look, as we look at this, and I've talked to teachers, I've observed students, they have a hard time reading and writing now in our public schools. It's pathetic. We're not turning out quality anymore. We're not teaching them anything. There is one race, and that's called the human race. And that's what we're going to promote. I don't care what color of skin I have. I don't even know what race I am and don't care. All I know is my name is Mark and your name is Tom, and we're going to learn to get along in this world. I'm not going to apologize because I have brown skin, and nor do I want you to apologize because you have whatever skin you got. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, don't you dare.
No, can't say that, right? But the bottom line is, in the eyes of God, everyone is created with a wonderful intent and purpose. We're created male and female, not 47 pronouns. That is not correct. If we can't rehabilitate and correct the school system the way it is, we have to break it down and do it again right. We can't keep pouring money into a broken foundation. We have superintendents that are loaded down with these big salaries that are not doing anything across the state of making things right. I want to see more Christian-based schools pop up, entrepreneurial opportunities pop up with these teachers that don't want to deal with that anymore. I want to see homeschool curriculum still broad where people can train the kids up in the way they should go. I read that in God's word. We as parents need to get involved in the education process, not just pawn it off to the teacher and the youth pastor once again.
Well,
we've got a lot of work to do in our education system. And if we don't get it turned around, let's bust it down and rebuild it from the foundation up.
I have tried to protect parents because now we're not just talking about parents, we're talking about public school parents, because we've had generation after generation parents have their children also go to the school they went to. Regular parents, we're talking about the Brave New World parents. So as governor, one of the things I've argued out there about what the governor does, I've defended Stitt because they said Stitt needs to pay teachers more. Well, the fact is that the executive branch, they appropriate the funds and protect teachers by saying you can't pay them less. Who robs the teachers by underpaying them? It's the school districts rob the teachers. Tell us how you're going to fix it.
Well, obviously the school districts, when you talk about the school boards and the superintendent, that's where you go right there. You fix those people, and if they're not pulling the weight, you get them out of there right now. I encourage all parents, even today, to get involved in city council, school board elections, step up and be a part, because if you don't become a part of it, you're becoming a problem in it. Get involved and step up.
There you go. Beautiful. One more with no critical race theory, because I got yes all around this because you hit all my buzzwords. And then we got one more and we're done. We're going to move after this to business, environment, and agricultural deregulation. But with back to critical race theory, yes, you say ultimately totalitarians want centralized government education as an avenue of conditioning the future generations into blind obedience. It's an edited version, but very well put. Ultimately, the totalitarians want to centralize the indoctrination of the students so that they can get that blind obedience. They don't give a damn where they're headed as long as you'll go wherever they're pointed.
They want you to just follow the lead without asking questions. Stop thinking for yourself. Do what we're told. That is not the American way.
Stitt audited both EPIC and the state of Oklahoma Department of Education. You like that? You hate that? What do you think about EPIC?
I do. I think auditing is a good thing. I don't think auditing is a negative thing ever. If there's a question, audit it. Answer the question. I thought that was a good move, quite frankly, and I think that's asking a question needs to be asked. Where's the money going?
On both sides. And what about EPIC in general? You like EPIC? You hate EPIC? What do you think?
Yeah, I think EPIC's okay. I think there needs to be more schools like that are able to stretch that curriculum more broad. I would want to look at exactly what they're teaching from a real specific microcosmic standpoint with them, because, in every educational curriculum, Tom, you have an opportunity to have this CRT creeping in, or this social equality keep creeping in, and it's dangerous. No matter what name it is, it's dangerous, because when you start getting down the road, well, we need to be fair. Life's not fair. If you don't work, you don't eat. I read that somewhere in a really cool book. It's like we have to really understand that the American dream was not based on equality. We have equal opportunity,
right?
But not everybody puts equal effort into it.
That's correct. And some people are more competent than others.
Yes.
And that is a guy named candidate Mark Sherwood, Dr. Mark Sherwood, Oklahoma First Policy, running for governor. One more and we're going to get out of here. Number 10 from the platform of Sherwood 2022.com, business, environment, agricultural deregulation. The only note I have here, and this is really stretching, you hit a buzzword because you said these regulations exist primarily to profit big corporations. You're really pointing that at the green industries. I just didn't like your use of what is classic class envy, the term big corporations. I like big corporations, but what you're saying is green industry, big corporations. Tell us about business, environment, and deregulation.
Well, obviously, when you've got the federal regulations upon businesses where people are trying to run here in the state of Oklahoma, it's like wearing handcuffs. We can't do this. We can't do this. We can't do that. And why do we have the handcuffs from Big Brother? Why can't we have free market, free enterprise system, free life again? So that's what I mean by that, Tom. And I think that as I've shared that vision with people in Oklahoma, I've shared it with this and say, can you imagine a state where we can actually do what we want, when we want, how we want, and achieve whatever our minds can conceive, where we're able to bear arms and not be in fear of the government infringing. And you can actually go to work without being worried about somebody questioning you about your vaccine status. and
Yeah.
people are like, I can see that. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, that is excellent. What else to tell them? Because, I mean, I have just worked you through the mill. You've been very kind. You stuck around 90 minutes. We had you scheduled for an hour. We're past 90 minutes now. But candidate Dr. Mark Sherwood, an excellent candidate, great presentation. You've got it well laid out at Sherwood2022.com. But what else can we find? You are actually speaking at the December 10th Boots and Bling event, 6 to 8 p.m., Redneck Yacht Club, Oklahoma City. What else can we say before we beam you back down to the planet's surface, Dr. Mark Sherwood?
Man, I just appreciate you, Tom, and I honor you so much for allowing me to be on your wonderful program. It's just a thrill, and I appreciate all the questions. I really thank you for that. Thank you for asking hard questions. Thank you for coming at things from different angles. I think I appreciate that more than anything. I want people to ask those hard questions, and I just ask people to out there prayerfully consider supporting us in our vision, because it's really all about us. If you've liked what you've heard, this is who I am. I am who I am, and my wife and I stand where we stand, and we will always represent you in honor and integrity, as we've done for the last 40 years, fighting against medical tyranny, which we have and we win, fighting against other battles, and we stood alone sometimes. But I'd rather stand alone and be in the right place than stand in a group of people and being in the wrong.
Well, that's right. Dr. Mark Sherwood, also founded and still running the Functional Medical Institute, healing people right out there. So, Doctor, once again, thanks for being here. We're going to beam you down and see if I can make this work here. See if it goes. There he goes. We're going to take him out. Mark Sherwood, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir. Wow, Dr. Mark Sherwood, I got to say, fantastic. We got a lot of wonderful people here in Oklahoma. Very accomplished gentleman there running for governor. Don't forget, next month we're going to be starting to talk about 3D Culture Wars, because 3D Culture Wars is upstream of 3D politics. And so we're going to be talking about art and music, etc., and entertainment. Thanks once again to Dr. Mark Sherwood, campaigning for Oklahoma governor. A special hat tip to Daniel. Daniel. We appreciate Daniel for putting us together tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, 3D Politics will be here next week. Talk to you then. Nevejas. Daniel Nevejas. Took me a second, but I'm slow. We'll see you next week.